the biggest labels around. She's worked on the publishing side. She works with artists such as Wafia and Arlie, and works with Ilo Ilo on Big Beat, and has put together remix packages for a lot of other incredible artists. So yeah, if you've got like questions about label stuff, today is your day. We're gonna get to some demos later. But yeah, let me know how it's going. Oh, thanks for the sub, Poppy. Hang on, my notifications are like all crazy because I read them just off the chat, but as you can see, I killed my bot. I banned one bot, and then it was fighting the other bot, and then so I banned them both, and then I unbanned them, and now my chat bot is just toast. So on that note, I wonder if we should get to our guest. Um, without further ado, here we are with Madison Vickery. Oh, yep. There she is.
Hi, Pat. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we got the frame back. See, it moved, but it was chill. We got it. It's the least of our
Okay,
worries.
amazing. Perfect.
Chat, let us know if the stream is sounding uh, all good.
Working?
How,
Yeah.
how's it going over there?
It's good. Yeah. Everything's good. Just moved into a new place over in Venice. So, feeling thankful to be by the beach during this time for sure.
Yeah, and I can.
It's not too far.
So you're moving in a crazy time, but it sounds like you're upgrading your chill, which is always a
Yes.
welcome move.
Always in a pursuit of upgrading the chill. That's for sure.
Is that a cello I see behind you?
It is. Yes. I grew up playing the cello and in a few, groups and came out here was going to be a cello performance major at UCLA, but then kind of pivoted over to the business side.
That would be what they call a smart move, maybe.
I was thinking about it, and just the life of a session musician I don't think was for me, but I've been bringing it back out little by little, and trying to get back at it, which has been nice, especially now that we're home and have this time to be creative.
Do you have? So my mom actually plays cello.
Oh, amazing. Great.
So it's funny because she's like 5 feet nothing and probably less and less every year, but it's massive, like compared. I guess they're like one size. Are cellos one size mostly?
Yeah, when I was younger, you kind of build up to a full size, so
Right.
it'll be like half size, like quarter size. And but yeah, I mean, growing up being like a little kid and walking to school, like going to orchestra practice, just like having this like huge cello strapped on my back,
Right.
wasn't and, like had my like school backpack on the front side, like definitely wasn't the coolest look around.
You're
But
building
yeah.
your shoulder and back muscles
Oh
from an
yeah,
early
I
age.
was a swimmer too. Helped me with the backstroke.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty well rounded to be playing cello and swimming. Did you have that thing? I don't know what it's called. She had essentially to make it to give it grip, like a hole in the ground, like the it's like a peg on a
Yeah, the
ruler
peg. Yeah,
with like
the peg holder.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's hard to describe to
So
anyone.
funny.
Like I wish I could draw, but it's just
You
basically
like
just
wet the bottom of it to make sure there's enough traction. It's
exactly. You put it on the chair and then so the thing is in there.
yeah.
Cool. So how long have you been? I start at the top. Like, how long have you been working with Atlantic Records?
I've been at Atlantic now for a little over 4 years. So I actually started as an intern at Atlantic when I was a sophomore in their promotions department. It's kind of a foot in the door, and then just started pitching music to different executives over there, and hopped over to the A&R department. And so all together with internships, I've really been at Atlantic for the past 5+ years. So really grown there, and I feel like it was a rare opportunity to kind of get that hands on the ground, proper like A&R education.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really special. And alongside of doing that, studying music history and in school, I was able to take a lot of industry classes and just learn more about the deep history of music and A&R and trends and whatnot. So it was a really great opportunity to be able to grow at that same time.
Right. So for people that are completely unfamiliar with the
Yeah.
term, what would be the broad, or your short form? Like, what is an A&R responsible for? What do they do?
Yeah. So an A&R means artist and repertoire. So from the from the get go, you are the person that's seeking the talent, going out to shows every single night, doing that true scout role of pursuing the artist, courting them to the label, and then from that get go, you're really the liaison between the artist and the label, and you are that person that's really communicating the creative vision that artist has, and you're also huddling with the team and kind of coming out with a strategy, making sure that you have a body of work or a few singles that we feel really embody that artist's vision at the time, and then you're really communicating that vision with the rest of the building, and really activating all the other teams that are going to be working on that project. So you really are the first person that's really coming in, bringing in the artist, and then really seeing through the record creation process alongside that.
So, I mean, so it sounds like from the artist side, you're kind of that main or first point of contact every time. If I'm with a label and you're my A&R, then I'm talking to you, and you're relaying sort of what the maybe wider vision is, but you're distilling it into something that maybe I can understand in my little SoundCloud world or something.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely. So, and there's a lot of different hats that A&Rs wear as well. So, we have a lot of times consultants that are, more so scouts that we have, that are on the ground really, finding the artists, those that are going, out every single night or sending songs. And then we have more song A&Rs that are more, coming up with writer producer ideas or have pitch songs. Some of our artists take pitch songs. Some of them are really in the room and writing their own or 100 percenters. So it really just depends on the artist and their creative process, and kind of where we can jump in and be a resource to them. And then there's also the wearing a research hat is also increasingly important right now with all the different databases that we have. I'm by no means a research motivated A&R. I truly believe that instinct is really, really important, and it also makes your job more fun. And it's really great to see when you have your instincts really pay off, and you start to see those artists that you really gravitated towards and were already a fan of start to pop up on those research. So that's kind of my view on it.
So, I mean, it sounds like it's going back to that classic, not the stereotype, but from what my early understanding was a lot of like discovery, like finding someone, whatever, maybe even an open mic or a battle or what have you, and being like, I see, there's something here. This person is gonna be, can do a lot more, and like, is that sort of what drew you? Like, is that side of it like a big focus for you, or do you kind of you just have to do all of these things at the same time?
Yeah, I think that right now I'm in a phase of really, building my roster, and so it's been exciting, to really identify the artists that I'm very passionate about and would really love to jump in and work with. And then alongside that, like I'm finishing up albums, and also doing the best I can to go through research. But I think that really at the end of the day, right now, like the record making process is really, where my heart is. I
Mm-hmm.
think I just finished the Arlie debut album, which I'm really excited about.
Cool.
We've been working on it the past 2 years, and they put out an amazing EP in 2018. I've just been, really working hard with Nate Banks, who's the lead singer, who writes and arranges all the music, and really making sure that we were delivering everything that was in line with his vision. And he had so many songs we were sitting on, and just I think that really making sure we got it right, no matter how long it takes. I think that really making sure that we take the time to make the best art, and that our artists are happy with. At the end of the day, that's the goal. So it's been really exciting.
So you're talking about this record, which you just finished, and 2 years for a debut full length. Would you say that that's sort of a standard? I mean, probably to the consumer, that might sound like a really long time.
Totally.
Do you think that's like a standard thing, or especially for like a debut?
I would say for a debut, I would say that I've seen a lot longer of a time. I think that since it's your first really real body of work, you want to communicate all different sides of your creativity, and kind of where the different boundaries can go as an artist. So I think that it really depends on the creative process of the artist. There's some artists I work with where, they can crank out, five demos that are, almost sounding like masterable in like a matter of days. And then,
Right.
there are some that, really want to dive in on the production and kind of, rethink and rework and, do it until they can get it to the best place they want. So I think it really just depends on the pace and the creative of the, in the creative process of the artist.
And I'm curious to hear more about like what Arlie's process was and
Yeah.
how you played a role in that, because like I sort of remember my debut full length with Kitsune in like 2017, and it was just, I mean, it was pretty hectic. I mean, like sort
Yeah.
of I had deadlines, and it probably is for everyone. When, once you have the deadline, you're going back and forth between versions and all that. But then sometimes also, I think I was struggling with vision at times and knowing like how much I want. Like I was always trying to put songs on the chopping block, which is probably maybe fine to someone in your position. But I was maybe like, I was almost too cautious. I was like, oh no, I want to cut that and I want to cut that. I almost cut some of the more successful songs on the record. And do you have to deal with like
That's
changing
fair.
tastes, on your side?
Yeah. Yeah. I with Nate, he's such a prolific writer and producer. And throughout the whole process, we identified songs from the get-go that, we really loved. And so we really wanted to give him the opportunity to kind of produce and arrange everything out into the point where he kind of needed another hand into it. And we identified a few producers and top liners that we wanted him to work with, throughout the album creation process. So we flew him to LA, and he worked with John Hill a lot here, actually in Venice. And it was, he's produced a few songs on the album. They ended up, really working well together. And then also worked with Lars Stolfers, who's just an incredible producer mixer, who ended up finishing the rest of the album. So it was great to, identify, a few producers and writers out here that ended up, really elevating his vision and pushing his creative boundaries that, really, we saw his, creative potential just completely, explode, in the past few years. And so, not then when COVID hit, and finishing the records remotely, that definitely elongated the process a little bit as well,
Mm-hmm.
just through like sending files back and forth and,
Mm-hmm.
streaming sessions. So, ultimately we ended up, I still believe, delivering the best product that we could. So that's been really exciting.
So how has your job changed through? I mean, it sounds like very much a relationship. I mean, that's at a lot of the core, aside from the work, obviously, of what you do. How has your day to day sort of changed, or has it really with this year?
I think in terms of in terms of engaging with artists, that's been really interesting, especially new relationships, and how it's all digital. Normally when I'm interested in artists and courting an artist, I'm if they're New York based, I'm flying to New York and I'm sitting with them, getting to know them and their team. And now it's all digital. So I do think that it's accessible because we oftentimes have many Zooms, but it's just different than having obviously that that personal connection, since A&R is such a human centered profession to be in.
Right.
And I think that even though it's the different way to explore a new relationship, it's been great. There's a few artists that I've really grown pretty close to throughout being in quarantine. But I would say in terms of making records and sessions, it really has been dependent on the comfortable, how our artists are comfortable in terms of approaching sessions. So some of them are into the Zoom sessions. Some of them think they're kind of awkward. So they just end up sending files back and forth
Right.
instead and, kind of vibing that way. And then others are like, yeah, I'll get a test, every other day and just go into sessions and, feel comfortable. So, it
Interesting.
really depends. Our Atlantic studios have COVID precautions, so we can only have a few, less people in the studios, obviously. So that's been, one restriction that I've seen in terms of, if we want to do live acoustic sessions where we have a few musicians, that's a little difficult to score live now. But for the majority, it's been, it's pretty much been the same. I wouldn't say that we've been too affected in terms of the record creation process and the quality of the records.
Yeah, it sounds like some artists or a lot of artists are taking the time uh, off touring to, while it's difficult to like know which way the world is going right now. I mean, it is one big chunk of responsibility off your plate, and that's time to create or figure out what you want to do next
Right.
with your next record. For anyone joining us, we're here with Atlantic Records and our director Madison Vickery, talking about what they do over at the big old scary labels. Uh, I'm just, yeah,
Not so scary.
not so scary. No, it is. So I'm curious. Like, how did you initially make that connection with Arlie? How did you start working together in the first place?
Yeah, definitely. So I, kind of coming up at Atlantic, I did the old traditional route as like assistant coordinator, now to director, and worked very closely with my mentor and the senior executive at Atlantic. Her name's Maureen Kenny. And so, we identified Arlie very early on. One of our consultants had identified him and knew some close friends of his. So, he's Nashville based. So, flew to Nashville, went to a few
Mm-hmm.
shows. This was, Maureen at the time, not myself. And then really started working with him after they released their first EP. I had a hand in their first EP process, but, really raised my hand to work on the project in more depth, once I really felt that I, built a really, deep connection with Nate and a lot of the other guys in the band.
Mm-hmm.
And so from then on, really started to dive in on all the music. He's the type of guy that has a SoundCloud folder of like 45 ideas and songs. So,
Sure.
diving into that was really exciting, and being able to really fight for a few songs that he wasn't so, keen on in the beginning of the process, to see him now, loving them and them becoming potential singles on the album have been really exciting. So in the ways that, I really dove into Arlie was like, identifying the producer writers that could, push his creative boundaries, and then, really standing my ground on a few songs that I was really excited about, but,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, really let him, take the reins on the, on what he wanted his first full length LP to look like.
And at this point, 2 years in at the end, I'm just curious, how is everyone feeling? Usually when I have a body of work, by the end of it, I'm like, just get it out there, make sure the art is right, don't misspell anything. I'm like, I don't want to hear it for like a while. Or like, are they the kind of band that they're like, we're in a good place with this, and like, yeah, let's just go. Like, where are they like, please don't play this for us again, just roll it out?
That's a good question. I think after all of the overwhelmingly positive feedback we've gotten on the album, they're like, their confidence level for the body of work has just, skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Like, when you're in a hole for 2 years on like the same songs, you
Mm.
just kind of lose perspective, and you kind of have that, I think this sounds great, I hope everyone else thinks the same type of view. And, thus far, getting our chairman's feedback, getting everyone's feedback, in the building, and a few of our partners, it's all been really positive, which is great to hear. And so, and I think that has really helped them, um, you know, revisit the songs and kind of feel better about them, even if they didn't feel like they're fully finished, because I feel
Right.
like most artists never feel like a song is fully finished. They could go at it for years.
It is funny how someone else's ears, especially if they're totally fresh, and maybe someone you don't have like a really close connection with, and maybe someone like decision makers or whatever, if they hear something, it can make you appreciate your own work, because like I'm sure so many artists like this. They just beat themselves up over every single little thing and
Yeah.
second guess every choice, to the point where it's difficult to see you know forest for the trees, or whichever. Maybe that's backwards, but and then if someone else, like or some like DJ plays on the radio show, you're like, okay, maybe like they got the vision. Sometimes it doesn't even happen maybe until afterwards. It's out in the world, and then you see a couple people play it or support it, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess like maybe
Yeah,
it's not trash.
definitely. And I think that that's where, Nayanar's work is, important, is to really, step in and, you know, validate the artist. We brought them in for a reason because we believed in them and in their creativity. And so I think that being that advocate is really important. And I think that especially throughout an album process that is so daunting, and working with a multitude of people, and making sure that the credits are right, and that the splits are right, and just kind of all of getting all that down, and the business side of things, where artists kind of don't want to hear any of that. And I think that when it's all said and done, it's just exciting to look back at what you've created. And since it's been this length of time, you can definitely look back and reflect and be happy about getting everything right the way that we'd wanted it to be.
Right. Yeah, the details are really important with something as big as that, I think.
Yeah.
You also, your bio mentions that you work with Wafia out of Australia, who's
Yeah.
will be a very familiar name to the chat. What is that? Do you have a similar role with her?
Yeah, so I also work on Wafia with Maureen Kenny. We actually signed Wafia through our JV label that we have with the producer John Hill, that actually worked with Arlie, that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
So we signed that through John Hill's JV, signed her through John Hill's JV, and he really went into full development mode with her in the very beginning. And then Maureen and I kind of came in and suggested some sessions. Her managers are also heavily involved in the A&R process as well, and it's just really great synchronicity throughout the whole team. So it's been a really great process. We just released her debut EP in August, which we're really excited about.
He's tight.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like it. Yeah. We're really excited about it. And I also A&R'd the Rehab remix for her single Good Things. And so that's going at dance radio right now in the UK, US, and Europe. So we're excited about that too.
Cool. So when you say that she was working with like the JV label, so was that a situation in which before that, had they kind of picked her out from kind of like SoundCloud, or I don't actually really know her backstory. Was she gigging a lot, touring a lot?
So Wafia built up quite a following in Australia. She was recently working with Future Classic,
right?
And then she also released a song with Louis the Child, "You Better Not," that really blew up.
Yeah.
So she toured her ass off. She really was everywhere. She gained a lot of traction in the States. And I think that she's such a light. I really do love Wafia. She's such a great person to work with. Constantly is delivering very competitive, beautiful songs. And I think she has a vision for her project, which is really exciting to work with. So she was working with Future Classic. John Hill had identified her as an artist he really wanted to work with, and then we ended up figuring out his JV deal. And then that ended up being, the first artist that he wanted to sign to that JV deal. So basically, we started working with her then, and it was myself, Maureen, Kenny, and John, and his management team that really came together and zeroed in on the creative vision for Wafia.
Got it. Yeah, that rings a bell now that I had been seeing her name associated with Future Classic for a while. So I guess it sounds like, she's had a considerable amount of experience with releasing music and touring before the JV label deal and now and with you now. So I guess, is that something that Atlantic does, is sort of like see sometimes look at like the indie landscape and see who's ready to make that next step, and what sort of indicators might you be looking for?
I think it really depends on the artist. There's some artists that, I am, super interested in and such a fan of that, haven't toured or right now, like, can't tour. And so I think that, it really is a way of getting that visibility. So I think more and more right now, it's been harder for new artists to kind of find that visibility. But, I do think that having that, platform and kind of that landscape and that fan base, that initial fan base, is something that we definitely really look at, and their engagement with fans. An artist that I absolutely love, that I think did an amazing job at this, is Blue to Tiger. She is just an incredible artist and in her right mind. She had a song blow up on TikTok, but she's by no means a TikTok artist.
Right.
And she really utilized that platform to do bass covers, really interact with fans. A lot of young women now want to pick up the bass and
Mm-hmm.
kind of aspire to grow into a DJ producer role. And I think that seeing more and more the way that artists are now getting creative with the way that they're putting themselves out there,
Mm-hmm.
it's been really inspiring to see. And I think that it's really pushed them to be involved in every facet of their rollout process, which a lot of times some artists have their teams that will do things, but really fans want to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that now increasingly seeing the way that artists are getting really creative in the way that they're engaging with fans and kind of getting themselves out there doing live streams has been really cool to see.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned her. Her name has been buzzing around for a while now. I guess she came
Yeah.
up with, or not came up with, but she works with the Knox,
Mm-hmm.
who I think she was the special guest at our show in LA. I didn't formally meet her, but I
Oh,
believe that's,
amazing.
yeah, when back when there were shows, but that's a whole other
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, at like 1720, and then I think also my other buddy in St. Lucia works with her a little bit. But yeah, and now it seems like the she's done this like mostly on under her own steam, and it sounds like the labels are sort of all keeping her front of mind right now because she's done so well
I
for
think
herself.
yeah, she's fantastic. She's a good person. I think her story is also really cool. She grew up in Manhattan, and at 17, was like sneaking into clubs and DJing and then playing the bass on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think she's a really interesting one for sure. I like her a lot.
So who else have you been keeping your eye on this year? Like what? I mean, it sounds like you're constantly in discovery mode. Has quarantine with less shows or no shows happening changed how you're trying to find out about new artists?
Right.
What are you finding? Where are you finding who's out there right now?
So I would say one band actually that I absolutely love is Sir Chloe right now. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I originally found them on Spotify, but they had two songs really blow up on TikTok as well. Really excited that alternative music is coming back,
Mm-hmm.
especially since I kind of came up and loving the early 2000s indie rock music that was coming out of New York. But
Right.
it's female fronted, indie rock, indie punk band, and really reminiscent of PJ Harvey, a lot of stuff coming out of the UK as well. So they're fantastic, and I think that the way that they've been so personal about the way that they promote themselves. Um, it reached out to TikTok directly for a campaign, and then it just ended up blowing up. So I think that's just the way that they've been involved, in promoting themselves, but also they started as a school project, and
Oh,
then
cool.
started releasing songs, and then slowly they started kind of popping off. So I think they're fantastic.
How do you spell it again?
Um, it is Sir Chloe, SIR,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Oh, just like the
CHLOE.
name Chloe.
Yep,
Sir
Sir
Chloe.
Chloe.
Thanks, Jim, for the raid. For those joining us, we are here with Madison Vickery from Atlantic Records. We're talking about finding exciting new artists and what it is that people do at the majors. And it sounds like alternative is making its comeback, so I gotta grow my hair out and get some sweatbands. And I do have my bass, which I started learning and then fell off pretty hard. So time for the side project, right?
No, it's so interesting. I always hit up my younger cousins sometimes, just to kind of hear like what music they're into,
Mm-hmm.
and of course they're all over TikTok and doing the dances everywhere. But basically, I hit them up the other week, and they're loving rock music and like punk rock music and guitar music, and I just
Who are the
think
names they're throwing at you? I'm super curious.
like going back old school to like My Chemical Romance,
Okay.
and like that, like even that, and I think that that's really interesting because I feel like and so these new artists like Goody Grace and others are kind of like bringing in that that old punk rock sound again, which I think is really cool.
That's No, that's it's really interesting. I wonder if that with I'm sure you've as you've heard, we're losing a lot of these established venues, which is a
Yeah.
real tragedy. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
businesses have been hit, but I wonder if that will go hand in hand with when we come back, and if there's only like large cap venues, and you have smaller, literally like garage bands, kind of acts coming together. If we're gonna go back to an era of kind of pop up shows
Yeah.
in like warehouses and things like that.
Totally. And I've experienced, a lot of younger artists, even, this is pre-COVID times, but, starting to do kind of like secret shows, in warehouses, like all the way out in Boyle Heights, and, renting out small venues, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of having like the DIY, like red cup, just pouring
Yep.
like vodka in a cup, type of vibe. But in those shows are really endearing, because you really see the fan base
Mm-hmm.
that really goes and shows up and drives to Boyle Heights like on a weeknight at like 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, I think increasingly, wait, did I see that you're playing a show soon
Oh,
on
I've
your
got a.
Instagram?
I swear I didn't. I swear I didn't tell you about that plug. No.
This was not planned.
No,
I
it's
I'm
great. Yeah. No,
curious
I've
because
got
I want
a.
to know. I'm at
Yeah,
like
I've got a
what
live.
benefit.
I'm taking over Beatport on Sunday. That thanks for reminding me. I would have totally forgot to mention it because my bots in the chat are dead. Sunday at 8 p.m. doing a live stream from Venice Beach. It'll be part of my mixed series Parallel Motion, and yeah, it should be really cool. There's like it's every hour for like there's like 8 or 10 artists on the bill. Like Sophie Tucker is gonna do one,
Amazing.
Elderbrook, and a bunch of it's a cool lineup. I guess they're pushing like this new dance. They're calling it dance and electro pop, and so yeah, that's Sunday. But there's no one in attendance really, just
Right.
because of
Is
the
it
way it
at a
goes.
venue?
It is at a rooftop that I finagled access to because I got it like that.
Okay, amazing.
But it's not
Hotel
like
or
a
rooftop?
nice. It's no like trust. I would like put out the invite if it was like a nice. It's a like it's a rooftop that's literally just the roof of a building. There's like stuff like there's going to be a lot of stuff outside of the camera angles that like is not safe for aesthetic. So I mean it's safe, but I feel like I'm backpedaling on everything is safe and totally legal, and everyone should stay distanced. But yeah, that's happening Sunday on Twitch at on Beatport's thing. But yeah,
Awesome.
that's so I like going back to what you mentioned about some of these pop up shows. I did go to one, basically like a showcase that was put together, friend of a friend, and there was sort of a house band of players that would, I guess, certain because there were like four or five artists that performed, and they kind of like accompanied them, and that was it was cool. I think you can really see the raw talent. With some people really excel as
Yeah.
performers in like in the live space, which TikTok and live streams can communicate, but there's nothing like being there in a room of like 20, 35 people, and you really just got to
Definitely.
bring it.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, there are definitely times where, I saw an artist that I really believed in, two, three, four, five times before I really made, a decision. And just seeing, their live shows progress is, something that's important. And something that has been awesome working at Atlantic, we have an artist development and touring department, which is actually pretty unique to us, which has been awesome. So a lot of people in that department, used to be agents, or used to book venues, or used to own venues.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they work alongside the artist agents, and really, help us find, the best tours for artists as possible. But they also, have their artist development rep that really helps them realize their full, production value for live sets. Kind of where they could use some more support, and kind of bring in coaches along the way. So kind of having that, built in for us is really a blessing, especially, for our artists, especially when they start to go back on the road.
Right. Yeah. No. There's such a large piece. I think we often just see the end product, or sometimes you might see someone go from viral talent
Yeah.
um, and then blow up, and then all of a sudden, maybe a year later, you see them on a stage like opening for a large act, and there's so many steps along.
Yeah.
There's a million steps and people also behind the scenes that are helping to realize that.
Yeah, I think a really cool one to mention. I was assisting Brandon Davis right after he signed Lizzo, and so I was really working, hand in hand in lockstep with their team throughout that time. I remember seeing her 4 years ago, like at the Echo,
Hmm.
and then fast forward now seeing her having like three or I think it was maybe even four like sold out nights at the Hollywood Palladium, like seeing that progression, and she still uses a lot of the same background dancers.
Hmm.
She's really built like her family, and has grown. The production level is just obviously crazy now. So it's been awesome to watch her grow, and to be a fan along the sidelines too.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that. What was it like seeing? I don't know how much music she had released at that point. I guess you saw her at the Echo. You said 4 years ago. Like what? I mean,
It was after she released her first EP,
mm-hmm.
and I was always a fan of hers. And Brandon is just incredible A&R. He worked alongside Ricky Reed and the Nice Life records folks over there that really also dove into that process, and obviously were just a huge hand in making the last album and just her whole career happen. And what I basically did was book the studios, but like make sure she'd get there okay, but and also like go to shows, kind of make sure that the team was settled in at shows. And then I also ended up doing some of her remixes as well, which was really fun. So I had Breakbot remix Juice, one of her last singles
I'm
on the
familiar with
album.
that one.
Yeah, and so my sister lives in Paris, and while I was out there once, like I guess Breakbot was doing that like Ed Banger rave at Versailles. It was like the first concert ever at Versailles. So being able to see that live was really exciting for sure.
Oh, you got to see him perform it in
Right,
France.
I was there just visiting my sister,
Oh,
and then it ended up working out, which is awesome.
he's sort of a legendary figure. I remember my first agent at the time was also working with him, and he would just say like, "Oh, I can't even." This was yeah, a few years ago, and he was saying like, "Oh, we can't even like get a hold of." Like, he's like, "I have all these shows for him," and like he's just in the jungle like doing drugs or so, or whatever he said about him. And I was like, that's sort of exactly the image that I had of Breakbot. So I'm like, it fits. Like, it's not an act, maybe.
Right. No, I Tebow is amazing. I really love him. And he turned around that Lizzo remix, by the way, in like 24 hours. It's pretty crazy. But he I've spent some time with him in Paris, and just the whole Ed Banger team is really awesome. And they I think that just the community that they've built, and just the fact that they really were the birth of the French touch movement over there. It's been great to be a fan, and growing up listening to the Kitsune music compilations, and doing that, and then now being able to be on the other end of it, and working alongside them has been really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Little off topic, but so on A-Tracks or the Duck Sauce interview series, which
Mm-hmm.
they just released like their fourth one with like DJ Premier, but they did one with David Guetta and another one with Todd Terry. But with the one with Guetta, there's a connection there where David Guetta talks about owning a club in Paris or in France somewhere, and basically like knowing that the Daft Punk guys before they started making music, and then sort of being like blown away. And Busy P was his promoter at the club. Did you watch that?
No, I didn't watch that, but I need to. I love Pedro, and just that whole crew. So that's awesome.
It's an incredible story. Yeah, so he was the nightclub promoter, and then he was like, I'm gonna leave to go manage these like guys, and I guess Dave Guetta was like, yeah, I get it, like they're really good, really fast, and then so he brought on DJ Falcon to be his promoter instead, and then of course so Busy P managed Daft Punk along with Gilda, who's one of the two founders of
Yeah.
Kitsune.
Hmm.
It's funny just how all of it kind of fits together. and then founded Ed Banger after that, and a lot of it has been archived in different stories. But it's kind of crazy sometimes. Do you ever get surprised at how? I mean, it seems like you know a whole nother family of people exponentially, but really in music, it seems like things are a lot smaller than they might appear.
Totally agree. I think in the beginning, when I first moved out to LA and I was so eager to, get out there and network and really get to know the people in the industry, it really only took, a few years to realize that, the LA music scene is so much smaller, than people think. The New York scene is a lot smaller than people think. And then once I started connecting with people in France and on a global scale, it kind of makes the world feel a lot smaller too, in a sense. And it's, I think, really exciting, when I can travel abroad and, have music be that, universal language that we all kind of connect on. And I think through those different collaborations, that I've done globally, that's been the one really exciting thing about it too. Just increasingly seeing the industry get smaller and smaller, for sure.
So do
I
you
feel like
think
everyone's only like 1 degree of separation away.
right, or at least like sometimes even just 1 degree from like knowing who to ask like to get to
Yeah, no,
someone else,
exactly.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Uh, that is something that I guess being in LA has shown me. Do you? I mean, you must get uh, a lot of messages or emails from people trying to like send you music, and I mean, one, I imagine like you're incredibly busy. Is that something that even like happens to people get their music heard, just kind of blasting their stuff off into the ether, and if so, like I mean, like can you think of any that have come to fruition in any sort of way?
I listen through every demo submission I get. Like I have a listening folder that like if I can't get to it, at that moment, like there'll be, days where I'll wake up and just kind of go through everything that I've gotten in the week. And I think it's really important. And there actually was an email that I got from a producer manager that sent me over a few beats. I ended up playing them for a few A&Rs, and we're cutting two of those beats now. So
Cool.
for one of our artists, Noah Carell. So I think that I love getting those emails. Sometimes it can be like inundating, of course,
Right.
but I think that when you can find that needle in the haystack, there's no better feeling. And I think also just it's important to to pay attention to that. And what was another one I was going to say? There was also an artist called Agate that reached out, who's really awesome. And and I just started diving into some of her stuff too. That she reached out recently. I think that that the demo submission process, even though it's antiquated, it's still it's important. And
Mm-hmm.
people work hard trying to get that recognition. And so and you can tell by the passion in these emails that you're receiving, that these people really believe in their music. And for me, that's why I'm an A&R. It's exciting to kind of be there and step in and help elevate, an artist's vision. So, definitely keep sending those emails.
What would you say is like the best um, sort of practice if I'm just starting out and I'm like, oh, I happen to find an email list and I want to send this out to a couple people. Do you want to know? I mean, I get some of those similar emails for all sorts of different kinds of music, and they range. Some people will send like PDFs, or like 8 paragraphs. What are you kind
Yeah,
of looking for?
I think the shorter the better. If it can just be like one Spotify link, SoundCloud link, or if you have like MP3 attachments, you know, don't probably won't like go through a whole like PDF like creative direction package, because at the end of the day for me it's really it's really going to be if I identify like a song that I think is really cool.
Yeah, straight, short, and to the point.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, in these times, I mean, you can clicking and listening to something is going to take enough time, and you could be the next Justice. But if you've sent 1,000 word email, I'm probably not gonna give
My favorite
same.
I've surprisingly, I don't know where my number is posted. I've gotten so many like unsolicited like demo submission phone calls like to
Oh
my
god,
cell. And
phone
we
calls.
get them in the office all the time. Like as an assistant, I probably screened like 15 demo submission calls a day. But I'm getting them to my cell now. That isn't really cool. I don't want to be hit up like that.
No, that's kind.
Instagram, that's fine. Email, that's fine. But don't call me.
Wow,
Please.
you're about to get like hit like all you're gonna get like hundreds of DMs right now. But that's kind of hilarious because first, who calls anyone? I don't even like it when my family calls me and like Twitter. I'm like, who's like, well, no, just text me. But yeah, like what? So how does that go to someone like, hey, I got a beat for you. Listen to this and like put it to the speaker. Like what?
Yeah, or no, we'll be like, I'm an artist, like I'm an artist. I want to send you what's your email type of a thing. And you know, that isn't the best approach that I like to be on the receiving end of. I understand like if that's, if they have that opportunity, it feels enticing, but it kind of is a little invasive a bit. I would just prefer,
Yeah.
getting those unidentified voicemails are always very interesting
Yeah.
to go through.
Not
I
necessarily.
downloaded RoboKiller and I hate it. I want to get it off my phone. It's like block. It's screening like all the Postmate calls and need my Postmates.
Oh my god, that's the battle of automation in these times. Like I've got these chat bots. So usually I have the chat scrolling in the black box in the middle on the feed, but then I had two bots that are supposed to do that, and then they're fighting each other, which is kind of hilarious. When I first got into Twitch, that was like a running joke, and then so I banned one, and then I banned the other one because nothing. Anyways, yeah, it's automation stuff. Uh, before I digress. Um, there was a chat. There was a question from the chat. We'll go through a couple more, and then we'll get to
Cool.
some demos because I know that you're short on time here. Maddie was asking like what, when it comes to starting to follow your passion, like working in music or working with a label, what sort of qualifications, are they looking for, and what would your advice be to someone that's kind of like, on a hope and a prayer, be like, I want to work at a label.
So someone that wants to come in working on the business side. Sorry, do you mind
Yeah,
speaking?
yeah. Sorry, yeah. More with like exactly on the label side as opposed to an artist.
Yeah, definitely. I think that internships are very important, and really starting to build your network. You never know, who you may meet along the way. I researched a ton of, executives, people that kind of like looked up to in the industry. I also researched a lot of companies, and through doing internships in different, areas of the industry, I was able to kind of understand where I fit, and it was really important that I'm really happy I did that anyways, because now, being an A&R, I have, that background in publishing or in sync and in
Mm-hmm.
supervision. So I understand, how those worlds operate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you really start to build, your further comprehension of the industry and kind of where you fit best into it. So I think that, slowly build your network. You know, I would cold email sometimes too. If you never know, who could be on the receiving end of that. And right now I know that it's kind of hard to get internships, in this digital climate. But I think, really doing your research, and also from me being an A&R, the biggest thing that the head of our department always says is know your history, and reading as much as you can about the industry, and also like when you're looking back in the history, most A&Rs were artists or producers themselves, and so now we just don't see that as much anymore. I do think that it is the A&R specifically's role to know that history, to understand that language, even brush up on music theory, especially if you're going to give notes to an artist,
Right.
and to just think about where you feel you would fit in the most in the industry, and then kind of tailor your path towards that. But I think doing your research, and there's no easy way to kind of just overnight really understand everything. I think that you really need to be a student and be thrown into different situations. So that's how I best kind of learned and navigated to end up where I am now.
I mean, it sounds like you really kind of went after it pretty hard, as much as any artist, really hungry artist, might be, and that seems
Totally. Yeah.
like I imagine your artists that you work with are notice that kind of passion and are happy to be working with you.
I
because
hope
of
so.
it.
No,
uh,
yeah, we've, I have great relationships with my artists. And at the end of the day, that's why I'm in it, is, to be there for them. And, I think that having the opportunity to be able to be there and step in and help elevate their vision is amazing, and it's kind of the reason why I got into it, for sure.
yeah, I do think that, I mean, as we transition into, listen to the demos, I think like sort of separating the two, like, the music and the art, and yes, the artist is like the work into to the consumer, to the outside, to the audience, but like it is really helpful. Like for example, with these short sessions at the ends of the chats every week, we listen to all sorts of stuff. I don't like ever turn anything away because it's not like it's not dance, or it's not something, not disco, or whatever, right? We
Right.
just try to sort of even if it's like a newer producer, be like, okay, well, this is a cool idea, and like maybe need to start at the basics, or like this is a great idea, now how can we make it even better, like so like no one comes in, or at least in my mind, like no one comes in like wins, and sometimes someone's like does something and you're like, I wouldn't change anything, you're like you're good. But that's like not that
Right.
doesn't really help everyone if you say anyone,
Right.
if you just say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Constructive feedback is key always.
Uh, on that note, let me see just real quick in the chat what's going on. We're here with Madison Vickery of Atlantic Records. Thanks everyone for sticking around. And Night Unknown for the gift sub. Have you been going on a Twitch in these times and like checking out or more live streams and seeing who's like coming up? It's totally
I
different
haven't.
world.
I need to get more into the Twitch game.
It's yeah, no, I mean, I guess Facebook Live, and there's just so much. Um, oh, what's here's one. Okay, what
Yeah, definitely the lives.
this will be the last question before because I know we've got to let you jump off. But what would you say are like the most important, the factors that determine if an artist is worth? This is from the chat. If an artist is worth pursuing or working with.
You know, I really look for an artist that has a fresh perspective. The goal of being an A&R is finding an artist that will shift culture, like a Lizzo, King Princess, Billie Eilish. But this is that's the high risk of being an A&R. You never really know who that will be. But we take a shot on the artists that we believe in. I think that um, I think that a great artist is the one that builds their vision from the ground up and is involved in multiple aspects of their project. They have a clear vision of who they are and who they will grow to be. And that doesn't mean that the vision will change along the way. But when I can step in and help elevate what an artist is already doing, it creates a great flow between the artist and the label. And then we're better able to communicate that vision through the teams. And I think that also just hearing a new sound that hasn't been done before. We had all these lanes open up, like bedroom pop, and the hard thing with that was like a lot that lane pretty much hit a ceiling because you're just saturated with artists that are kind of emulating what's already been done before. So it's been interesting to see a few artists kind of break through from that scene, but also the ones that I think are recreating their sounds. They have different influences than what's kind of in right now. The ones that take risks, and I also really look at the way like that they engage with their fans and social engagement. But at the end of the day, for me, if the music is undeniable, I'm a fan. I won't disregard an artist because they have 2,000 followers on Instagram. I don't. It's not something that I look for.
That's a great answer. Shall we listen to some music?
Let's do it.
Okay. So I've got. Let me just pull this tab up. See what I got going on here. So you've got the links on your side. I've got this Clayton Fox remix already queued up. So why don't we start there? I think it's the first link.
I got it.
Let me put these headphones on real quick. All right. Demo time. I'm going to mute my mic, though. And you might actually want to mute yours as well. All right.
Stepping out the edge, I'm militant. Even though this time I'm innocent. Silence is your favorite instrument. Yeah, use it on me every chance you get. If you wanna leave, then go. If you wanna stay, then move on. No point in holding on. If it's better if we let things go.
Cool. So that was Clayton Fox on the remix of Ari. I'm not familiar with the original Clayton. If that's like is it like a lot slower normally? I'm a bit curious. Any thoughts, Madison?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that was, super groovy record. I love the synths and the syncopation throughout the remix. I think that something that I did note was that it would be great to diversify it a bit in the high end with a counter melody at parts to prevent the song from sounding too linear. But I think if I don't know if the original had verses or whatnot, but that could help round out with verses. But if not, I think that the vibe of the overall record is awesome, and I think that maybe just diversifying with the counter melody and the high end up parts could really make the record stand out.
Yeah, I think I like that with it dropping the counter melody on us. That's probably a more rare phrase. Yeah, I agree. I would have liked, so the vibe is like there. I think you got the sound choice and everything and the groove of it. I would have liked some variation. I was actually hearing more almost on the drum side, because right now it just felt like one straight kind of loop, and then like you said, so if there's verses or like how can you introduce some variation, whether that's just dropping out like the hats and just going with a 4/4 kick for like a bit just to get you in between sections, which is
like
building and just changing energy just a little bit. Nothing crazy, since you kind of have the main pocket down. But yeah, nice. Thanks for sending that. He said the original is 80 beats per minute, so that's cool. You made a little DJ version. I would totally play that. We've got an original demo from Color K. We're going to sneak that one in there. Do you have that one there?
Yeah, I got it.
Cool. All right. 3, 2.
Tell me what you want from me, I'll give it. Anything for you, girl, I'm for real. My father taught me how to get the ladies, but I'm way too weak for something deeper inside me, yeah. And every time I see you, my heart's running away from me. Ooh, running makes no sense when you are sleeping. In a dream forever, I believe. It can be all so simple, baby. I'm talking about me and you. Give me your number, girl, stop playing. I know you like me too, yeah. It can be all so simple, baby. All you need to do, just take my hand, don't keep me waiting. I just wanna know your favorite color. Send you something sweet when you're asleep. Mama told me how to treat it later, and I hope you spend your day thinking about me. Everything around us doesn't matter. I get lost when looking in your eyes. The way you touch me, girl, my heart starts running away from me. Running makes no sense when you are sleeping. In a dream forever, I believe. It can be all so simple, baby. I'm talking about me and you. Give me your number, girl, stop playing. I know you like me too, yeah. It can be all so simple, baby. All you need to do, just take my hand, don't keep me waiting. You, give me your number, girl, stop playing. I know you like me too, yeah. It can be all so simple, baby. All you need to do, just take my hand, don't keep me waiting. Let's do it, baby.
Cool. All right, that one's 5, an extended mix, so we're going to cut that one since it seems to be the extended club play. And I know you've got to bounce shortly. What are your thoughts on that one, Madison? Nope. I think you're muted.
Okay. No, yeah. I must have started mine a little behind you.
Oh, no worries. I was jumping around because I know it was a longer arrangement. You got to bounce. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think again, really cool record. I think that the overall vibe is really cool. I love the hook in the song. I think that there could be more of like a percussive element in the pre-chorus. The pre-choruses just to help it build throughout, and just to kind of help the arrangement not get too static. I will say that I think that the arrangement in the song as it is now is too long. I think that you could really cut some sections to avoid repetition, and then also, I think that through the hook you kind of you get the point a lot sooner, so you can kind of cut it down a bit, so it can be people can enjoy it to the end.
Right, straight to the point. Yeah, I would have. The production's pretty good. It's a nice, like, catchy top line. I would sort of almost play with some of those synths. They're a bit dry for my liking. I mean, it's a thing. It's a sound. But I wonder if I were to like sprinkle some. It's also a sound that like reminds me of a little bit of like 5 years ago or something as well. Like some of the stuff I was playing, it's like Splash House and things like that. But it's strong production and a strong idea. I think with some arrangement and some tweaking, like you're pretty good to go. This has been great. I know you have a call you have to get to. So work, you got to pay the bills at the end of the day.
I'd rather stay here with you.
Yeah, this has been really fun, and thanks for sharing all your wisdom and insights and these stories about working with these incredible artists. When are those, like, what's the music that we have to look forward here? That debut LP, when is that dropping?
Yeah, so Arlie, we probably will start rolling out, top of next year, maybe around February.
Mhm.
So be on the lookout for them. And then, Wafia, we're just diving back into the A&R process and probably looking at, doing something, more so top of next year as well. And then another artist to put on your radar, I just started working with another Australian artist who's based in Sydney. Her name is Maya. It's capital MAY and then it's -A.
Okay.
She had a new song that's out on New Music Friday today.
Wow.
And, really prolific songwriter, incredible voice. Really excited to start working with her. So you can expect more music from her soon as well, but I can't say yet when just yet.
And she's on this week's New Music Friday.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Cool. And that's Maya MAY-A.
Yes. The new song's name is Apricots.
Nice. That's easy to remember. Delicious. Well, thank you again so much, Madison. This has been a lot of fun. Hopefully, you enjoy your new chill on the West Side spot. I'll send you a link.
You need to come check it out.
Yeah, that's right. But
Now.
I'm gonna go back to Canada for Christmas and to avoid stuff that's happening in a little bit. But definitely. Yeah. Hopefully we can get that Venice hang. I want to see the ducks. I used to go see the ducks all the time when I was like around the canals.
Yeah, the little duck park is so cute.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of sad not being able to see the kids like run around and feed them bread and stuff, but
which is actually not good for ducks. So maybe they're thriving without.
Actually, that's good to know. Not that I was going around with like loaves of bread on the canals, but
yeah, something about it. Anyways, duck session soon. Thanks again. Have a great weekend, everyone. Go follow Madison Vickery and send her very concise demos if you're gonna do that.
Thanks, guys.
We'll chat soon. Bye now.
Talk later.